Alright, so the last video we started talking about Simple GUI, which is this special module that works in Code Sculptor that allows us to do things like creating a frame, which is the basic window. So this window here is a frame, and we saw that we could talk to the frame by saying frame dot and the function name, and we could say frame. We could ask the frame to add a button with the label click me and the handler, the button handler, click. So we could put whatever function name we want here, but it needs to match some function that we've written, some handler that we've written. So we have so here we're saying when I click on the button, call the click function, and the click function is defined right here. And what it does is it takes the global variable message and assigns it a new value. It just tells it good job, so that when you click on the button, it says good job. And so now we want to talk about this draw handler and what that's about. So we can see here that it has this input parameter canvas, and canvas is another object. So we've got this canvas dot. So we're going to ask the canvas to draw text. Okay, and that text, we notice that the first parameter to text is message. Okay, so the message is going to be either welcome or good job, depending on whether we've clicked the button, right? But we're going to draw that message, and then there's all this other information. What is this about? Well, red kind of makes sense. That's probably the color of the font. That's right, because we saw that it draws the text in red, so that's probably that. And then 48, we can kind of guess that's probably the size of it. And when we have a pair, that's probably has to do with position or size, right? And I'm guessing 48 is the size, and 50, 112 is probably the position. Well, how would we find out for sure? Well, what we can do is look in the docs over here. And if we look under, we'll have different options under here. If we look under graphics, that's where all the GUI stuff, simple GUI stuff is. So if we look there and we see, canvas, because we're dealing with a canvas object here, and canvas draw text. Let's see what it says. It says text point font size font color. So yeah, so it looks like this is the point where the text is going to get drawn. It says writes the given text in the given font size, color, and font face. The point is a two-element tuple or list of screen coordinates representing the lower left-hand corner of where to write the text. And you see also supported colors. So if you wanted to know what are all the possible colors that you could draw, you can choose one of these guys. Okay. Okay. So that's what that does. But when does this draw handler? Oh, and we also notice we ask the frame to set the draw handler to this function. Okay. So when does the draw handler get called, and how does it know what the canvas is? Well, the draw handler actually gets called about 60 times every second. It gets called every time the screen gets refreshed. And what happens is that the canvas object, so the canvas, remember, is this, this part right here that's all, right now it's filled in with black and has the graphics in it. So it's this, the part of the frame that contains all the graphics, right? So that canvas gets passed to the draw function behind the scenes automatically for you. The part that you have to worry about is to make sure that you set the draw handler for the frame, because otherwise if you don't, then this function will never get called. Okay, but as long as you set that, then this is going to get called 60 times a second. Well, if it's getting called 60 times a second, it doesn't look like anything's happening here, right? But actually, your computer screen is continually being refreshed. Okay, even if you don't see any changes. And what's nice about that is, so what we're doing here when we say draw text, instead of saying set text like we do in micro worlds, say set text 1, we talking to a particular text box on the screen. What we're doing here in Code Sculptor is we're drawing directly on the canvas. We're telling the canvas, go to whatever this point down here is 50, comma 112 on the screen, and from that point draw welcome. Draw this text, which happens to be welcome at this point, in at this point, this size and this color. Okay, so so that's what it does. And then because you're refreshing all the time, when you hit click me, all the click me does is it changes the value of message. So pressing this button only changes the value of message. The reason that this changes on the screen is that after message got changed to good job, draw is still continually being called, so it's immediately called right after you click on this, right? And it's still being called right as we speak. It's being called over and over again, but it'll be called immediately after you click, and so it's going to draw, since the value of message has changed, it's going to draw the new value of message. It's going to draw a new job. All right, so that's the basic idea. So the thing that makes, so let's just try to sum up and compare with microworlds here. So in Code Sculptor, you have to create this frame, right? You have to and to be able to create this frame, you have to import Simple GUI. Okay, so it's really important. You need that Simple GUI module. Let's see, what else? There's the controls, like the buttons and input fields and things like that, are going to go here in the control panel, or the control area here. And key and mouse events will show up here once we start working with those. This is your canvas. Okay, so in Code Sculptor, in a Code Sculptor frame, the control area is separated out from the canvas. What else? Let's see. What are the other differences? So I have some differences here written up for you, but I just want to make sure I'm hitting them all. Yeah, so in microworlds, all the control graphics, all the control would go here in the graphics area, right? So, oh, you know what? Yeah, the other thing is, well, we'll see that later, that you can actually do things like create kind of like a rules tab for your input field, or a handler. Basically, you set up a handler for your input field, and it would be kind of like if you could have a rules tab for text boxes in microworlds, which we don't have right now. So that's kind of nice. Oh, and another thing that's nice that you'll see later on is in Code Sculptor, you can handle both mouse clicks and mouse drags, which is something you can't do. You can only do clicks in microworlds. And what else? Oh, and in microworlds, you just have can just detect key presses. In Code Sculptor, you can detect key down and key up, which is kind of nice. And then there's this idea that you need to call frame start. And that's kind of like when you're starting a game in Micro Worlds, if you have a button that says everyone click on, something like that. So those are the general differences, and we'll start looking at these things in more detail as we move on. But this is a good basic, kind of program to look at, which is why it's nice that it comes up automatically when you go to Code Sculptor. So next time you go to codesculptor.org, take a look through it and see all the different pieces and make sure it makes sense.